In the heart of Rwanda, where the land stretches wide and wild, Akagera National Park awakens each morning beneath a sky painted with the soft hues of dawn. For decades, these sprawling savannas and shimmering lakes existed in a state of unnatural tranquility, a silence that settled over the land like a heavy mist. The air, once thick with the tension of predator and prey, had grown quiet. The grasses swayed undisturbed, and the only sounds were the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant calls of birds. The great carnivores, once the rulers of these plains, were gone, their ancient trails fading into memory. Human conflict and encroachment had swept through the region, leaving behind only echoes of the mighty predators that once shaped the rhythm of life here. In their absence, a strange and precarious peace settled over the land. The savannah seemed to breathe easier, but beneath the calm, something vital was missing. Herds of herbivores grazed without a care, their numbers swelling unchecked. Elephants wandered in slow, deliberate processions, and giraffes stretched their necks to the highest branches, all untroubled by the threat of pursuit. It was a beautiful landscape painted in gold and green, but it was incomplete, a masterpiece missing its boldest strokes. The ecosystem was missing a crucial element, a driving force that shapes life and landscape in equal measure, the presence of an apex predator. Without them, the natural order was unbalanced, and the savannah's story felt unfinished. The soul of the savannah, its primal heartbeat, was silent. The dusk brought no roars, no sudden chases, only the gentle hush of wind and the distant chorus of frogs. But nature abhors a vacuum. The silence was finally broken, not by the footsteps of humans, but by the return of a force as old as the land itself. Across more than 2,500 kilometers, a new hope and a new terror journeyed back to Akagera. The land braced itself for the return of its lost kings. 17 lions, carefully selected from distant reserves, set paw once more on the soil their ancestors had ruled. Their arrival was a moment of both hope and uncertainty, a ripple of energy through the waiting grasslands. Among them, an experienced 11-year-old matriarch led the way. Her wisdom, earned through years of survival, would be the pride's compass in this unfamiliar world. Their arrival was not merely about bringing back a single species. It was the rekindling of an ancient relationship between predator and prey, a dance as old as the savannah itself. It was an ambitious experiment to restore a complex ecological balance, to reintroduce the concept of fear, and to see if a generation of animals that had known only peace could relearn the ancient art of survival. The reintroduction was a carefully calculated risk, a gamble with the future of the entire ecosystem. The unchecked herbivore population, while seemingly a sign of prosperity, was slowly leading the park towards desertification. The land, stripped of its protective cover, began to show scars. Without predators to keep their numbers in check, the vast herds were overgrazing the plains, threatening to turn lush grasslands into barren dust. The balance of life teetered on the edge. The lions were the solution, a natural and necessary force of regulation, their presence a reminder that every life is shaped by the shadow of another. Their presence would ripple through every corner of the park, touching the lives of every creature, from the smallest monkey to the largest elephant. The web of life would tighten, each strand vibrating with new energy. The stage was set for a profound transformation, a dramatic story of adaptation, conflict, and the rediscovery of instincts long thought dormant. The return of the lions marked the beginning of a new era for Akagera. The savannah, once silent, now pulsed with anticipation. It was a promise to restore the park to its former glory, to rebuild the intricate web of life that had been torn apart. Every sunrise brought new hope, every sunset a reminder of resilience. This is the story of that restoration. A tale not just of lions, but of an entire world awakening from a long and uneasy sleep. It is a story of how an entire ecosystem was forced to remember what it had forgotten, how fear once banished, returned as a teacher and a guardian. It is an exploration of fear itself, not as a simple emotion, but as a vital, life-giving force that shapes every heartbeat on the savannah. The lion's roar, once just an echo of the past, was now a thundering reality, and every animal in Akagera, from the smallest insect to the mightiest elephant, would have to learn to listen once more. Before the lions returned, Akagera was a world suspended in a gentle golden dawn. The savannah stretched endlessly, bathed in the soft light of morning, where herds of antelope and zebra grazed in tranquil harmony. The air was filled with the quiet sounds of contentment, rustling grass, the low calls of buffalo, the distant snort of a warthog. Life here was a tapestry woven from peace, abundance, and the absence of fear. The park was an Eden for herbivores, a world without shadows. Herds of impala, topi, and buffalo moved across the grasslands, their numbers swelling with each passing season. The grass grew tall and thick, untouched by the trampling paws of predators. Zebras, topis, impalas, and buffalo grazed in vast mixed herds, their days governed only by the search for fresh grass and cool water. The rhythm of life was simple: eat, drink, rest, and move with the sun. There was a peaceful indifference among them, a lack of the constant vigilance that defines life on a predatory savannah. Ears flicked lazily, eyes half closed in the midday heat, bodies sprawled in the shade of acacia trees. A young zebra calf could wander a short distance from its mother without immediate peril. The bond between mother and calf was gentle, unstrained by the ever-present threat of attack. A warthog family could forage in the open, their primary concern being the heat of the sun rather than a stalker in the grass. Piglets chased each other through the dust, their squeals a song of innocence. This was a generation of animals that had never known the chilling scent of a lion on the wind. Their nostrils flared only for the promise of rain or the distant smoke of a grass fire. This predator-free existence had a profound effect on the social dynamics of the park's inhabitants. Wildebeest mingled with impala, and buffalo grazed side by side with zebra, their interactions marked by curiosity rather than caution. The need for sentinels and alarm calls was greatly diminished. Herds grazed without the constant rotation of lookouts, and the sharp bark of warning was rarely heard. While some instincts remained, their urgency had faded. Occasional glances over a shoulder were more habit than necessity. Animals that would normally keep a wary distance from each other mingled freely. The boundaries between species blurred in the absence of a common enemy. The topi, an antelope naturally suited to be a lookout, would still stand on termite mounds, but its gaze was lazy, its purpose less critical. The urgency of vigilance had softened into a casual survey of the horizon. The intricate dance of survival, the constant assessment of risk and reward, had been replaced by a simpler, more placid rhythm of life. Grazing animals moved in slow, synchronized patterns, their lives unfolding in gentle motion. The park was thriving, but it was also vulnerable, its creatures blissfully unaware of the predator-shaped hole in their world. The grasslands flourished and the herds grew strong, but beneath the surface a subtle imbalance was taking root. Even the park's existing carnivores had adapted to this life of ease. Spotted hyenas lounged in the open, their bellies full, their days unhurried. The spotted hyenas of Akagera, known elsewhere as formidable pack hunters, had largely become scavengers, their powerful jaws cracked bones left behind by natural deaths, and their social bonds were shaped by the easy abundance of carrion. With so many herbivores, natural deaths from old age, sickness, or accident provided a steady and easy supply of food. Vultures circled above, their shadows drifting over the grass, guiding hyenas to their next meal. There was little need for the risk and energy of a coordinated hunt, when a feast could be found simply by following the vultures. The savannah's scavengers thrived in this era of effortless plenty. A few solitary leopards lurked in the denser woodlands, preying on smaller animals like vervet monkeys, but their impact on the larger herbivore populations was negligible. They moved like shadows, rarely seen, their presence a whisper rather than a roar. They were ghosts in the trees, not rulers of the plains. Their solitary hunts left the great herds untouched. This idyllic state, however, was an illusion of health. The balance of nature was delicate, and the absence of apex predators left a void that could not be filled by scavengers or solitary hunters. An ecosystem without its apex predators is like an engine missing a vital component. The gears of life turned, but something essential was absent. It may run for a while, but it is fundamentally unbalanced and destined for failure. The signs were subtle. Patches of overgrazed earth, the slow decline of certain plant species, the quiet disappearance of insects and birds. The tranquility of Akagera was the quiet before a storm of ecological collapse. The land was beautiful, but its beauty was fragile, its peace a thin veneer over growing instability. The overgrazing was stripping the land bare, impacting not just the large mammals, but also the insects, birds, and smaller creatures that depended on a healthy grassland habitat. The web of life was fraying at the edges, each thread weakened by the absence of fear. The return of the lions was not an intrusion on this peace. It was a desperate, necessary intervention to save the park from its own deceptive calm. Their arrival would restore the ancient balance, reawakening instincts dulled by generations of safety and breathing new life into the heart of Akagera. Fear is one of life's most fundamental forces, a primal instinct etched into the DNA of every creature that must survive in a world of predators. It is the invisible thread that weaves through the tapestry of the wild, shaping every movement, every decision, every heartbeat. In the endless expanse of the savannah, where the grass whispers secrets and shadows stretch long, fear is both a shield and a teacher. It is the electric jolt that triggers a headlong flight, the sudden stillness that hides from a watchful eye, the desperate courage that stands to defend a vulnerable offspring. Fear is not simply panic, it is a calculated response, honed by countless generations, that can mean the difference between life and death. For the animals of Akagera, this instinct had been sleeping. It was a forgotten language, a silence in the mind where once there had been warning. The reintroduction of lions meant that this language had to be relearned, and quickly. The return of the apex predator sent ripples of unease through the herds, awakening ancient memories buried deep within their genes. The process reveals that fear is a complex combination of innate programming and learned experience. Some responses are hardwired, an instinctive freeze, a sudden dash, but others must be acquired through observation, trial, and sometimes tragedy. An animal might be born with the capacity for fear, but it must learn what to be afraid of. A newborn gazelle, for instance, is alert from its first breath, but it does not yet know the scent of a lion or the meaning of a distant roar. Its education begins at its mother's side, where every movement is a lesson, every hesitation a warning. The process of learning is a multi-sensory experience. It begins with unfamiliar sights, the flicker of movement in the grass, the low rumble of a growl, and, most importantly, smells carried on the wind. Each sense gathers information, piecing together a mosaic of the world's dangers. A scent is a story carried on the wind, and the musky, powerful scent of a lion is a story of death that the herbivores of Akagera had not smelled for generations. The first time it drifts across the plains, it is met with uncertainty, a puzzle to be solved, not yet a threat to be feared. Initially, this new information is processed with curiosity rather than alarm. Ears swivel, nostrils flare, and eyes scan the horizon, searching for the source of the unfamiliar odor. The mind of the animal is a living map, constantly updating with every new sensation. An animal might detect the scent, its head lifting and its ears twitching, but without a negative experience to associate it with, it is just another piece of sensory data. The true meaning of the scent is not yet written in the animal's memory. The real learning happens in the heart-pounding moments of a chase, the sight of a fallen herd member, or the terrifying roar that shatters the night. When a lion emerges from the darkness, muscles tense and adrenaline surges, the lesson is seared into memory. The next time the scent is detected, it is no longer a curiosity, it is a warning. This education in fear is passed down through generations. The elders of the herd carry the stories of survival, and their vigilance becomes the foundation upon which the young build their own understanding of danger. A wildebeest calf, for instance, does not enter the world knowing the precise tactics for evading a predator. It learns by observation and by participation in what appear to be games that are in truth rehearsals for survival. Young males will chase the calves in mock hunts, teaching them the crucial skills of turning sharply and running with the herd. These playful chases are more than entertainment, they are the drills that will one day save lives. These games are life or death rehearsals for the real event. Every stumble, every burst of speed, every feint and dodge is a lesson in the art of escape. Similarly, a mother will communicate her own anxiety to her young through subtle body language, a stiffened posture, a flick of the tail, a low grunt. These cues are the first warnings, the silent language of fear that only the attentive can decipher. The calf learns to associate its mother's fear with a specific trigger, connecting the dots between scent, sight, and danger. Over time, these associations become instinctive, guiding the animal's actions even in the absence of its mother. For some species, the communication of fear is even more sophisticated. It becomes a shared communal knowledge essential for the survival of the group. The herd moves as one, each member attuned to the signals of the others, a living network of vigilance. Vervet monkeys, for example, have developed a complex vocabulary of alarm calls. Their society is built on communication, and fear is a message that must be delivered with precision. They possess distinct sounds to warn of different types of predators, one for an eagle from above, another for a python on the ground, and yet another for a leopard in the trees. Each call triggers a specific response, a choreography of survival that is learned through experience and imitation. This is not pure instinct, it is a learned behavior, a vital piece of cultural information passed from one monkey to another. The young watch and listen, absorbing the lessons that will one day keep them alive. In Akagera, the lions would present a new threat, and the monkeys would have to invent or adapt a new sound for this terrifying new presence on the ground. The birth and learning of fear is a never-ending story, written in every heartbeat, every warning call, every silent glance across the grass. In the wild, fear is not just a feeling, it is the wisdom of survival, passed from one generation to the next, shaping the destiny of all who called the savannah home. When the lions first set paw on the Akagera savannah, the transformation began quietly, almost imperceptibly, but its effects rippled outward with every step they took. The air itself seemed to change, carrying a new scent, a new tension, a new lesson for every creature that called this place home. The giraffes, towering above the grasslands, were the first to sense the shift. Their long necks and keen eyes made them the sentinels of the plains, always the first to notice anything unusual. From their lofty vantage they scanned the horizon, their gaze sweeping over the undulating grass, searching for the source of the unfamiliar scent that drifted on the wind. The giraffes paused, nostrils flaring, drawing in the new aroma that threaded through the acacia woodlands. It was a scent that stirred something deep within them, a memory buried by years of peace. Their reaction was not one of immediate terror, but of measured curiosity. They watched, waited, and listened, their bodies tense but not yet fleeing. One by one they stopped feeding, their necks stretched high, ears swiveling like satellite dishes, trying to pinpoint the direction of the threat. The savannah seemed to hold its breath with them. The giraffes knew something fundamental had changed, but the meaning of the lion's scent was lost to them. The knowledge of danger had faded, and now it had to be relearned. This was the first lesson in a new curriculum, one that would soon sweep across the entire park. Every animal, from the smallest antelope to the largest elephant, would be enrolled in the re-education of the savannah. The lions did not need to be close for their presence to be felt. The mere knowledge that they were somewhere out there was enough to change the behavior of every creature. Other predators, too, began to shift their roles. Hyenas, leopards, and jackals all became part of the new order, their actions shaped by the return of the apex hunters. In one telling moment, a young rhinoceros, emboldened by innocence, wandered toward a clan of hyenas. The calf, never having learned to fear, approached with a naive curiosity. Before the lion's return, hyenas were mostly scavengers, rarely a threat to the larger herbivores. Their presence was tolerated, even ignored. The rhino calf, unaware of the new rules, moved closer, its steps hesitant but unafraid. But the hyenas, emboldened by the shifting balance of power, met the calf with a new boldness. Their posture was aggressive, their eyes sharp with hunger and opportunity. A tense standoff unfolded. The hyenas bared their teeth, snapping and circling, while the young rhino froze, confusion turning to fear. In a burst of instinct, the calf turned and fled, the lesson seared into its memory. The scent and sound of a carnivore now meant danger, and the only response was to run. High in the acacia trees, the vervet monkeys watched the drama unfold. Among all the savannah's students, they were perhaps the most adept at learning new lessons. The vervet's alarm calls, already complex, began to evolve. They experimented with new sounds, testing which calls best warned the troop of this new ground-based threat. Before the lions, their warnings were reserved for eagles, pythons, and the rare leopard. Each danger had its own call, its own response. Now, with the lions stalking below, the monkeys had to invent a new alarm, one that would signal the approach of a powerful, persistent hunter. Perched high above, the vervets watched the lions' every move, their eyes tracking the predators as they passed beneath the safety of the branches. Their chattering shifted, a new urgency entering their voices. The troop listened, learned, and soon a new call was born, a warning that would save lives for generations. This new alarm became part of the vervets' shared language. A vital addition to their survival toolkit, passed from adult to infant, from one troop to the next. But the re-education was not one-sided. The lions, too, were students in this new world. Raised elsewhere, they had to learn the ways of Akagera's wild. Their first hunts were cautious, almost tentative. They tested the reactions of the herds, probing for weakness, learning which animals were easy targets and which were best avoided. Their first true test came at night, when they brought down a full-grown buffalo. The struggle was fierce, the victory hard-won, but it marked a turning point for the pride. With each hunt, the lions refined their skills. They learned to read the landscape, to anticipate the movements of their prey, to recognize the signs of danger and opportunity. When they attempted to hunt a young elephant, the herd responded with swift, coordinated defense. The adults formed a living barrier, trumpeting and charging, their unity unbreakable. The elephant's wall of flesh and tusks was impenetrable. The lions, outmatched, retreated, the lesson clear. Some bonds are too strong to break. And so, day by day, encounter by encounter, the savannah was re-educated. Every animal, predator and prey alike, learned anew what it meant to survive in a land where the lions had returned. Across the endless golden plains of Africa, the great herds of wildebeest and zebra are driven by an ancient, unyielding rhythm. Their lives are shaped by a relentless cycle of migration, a journey that has played out for millennia, dictated by the changing seasons and the promise of life-giving rain. The search for fresh grazing lands and precious water is not a choice but a force of nature embedded deep within their bones. Hunger gnaws at their bellies and thirst cracks the earth beneath their hooves, pushing them onward, no matter the cost. This journey is a crucible of survival. The herds face exhaustion as they trudge across parched ground. their flanks heaving with every labored breath. Starvation lurks in the shadows, and the ever-present threat of predators keeps every sense on edge. In Akagera, the migration reaches its most perilous chapter at the river's edge. Here, the air is thick with tension as thousands of animals gather, their bodies pressed together in a living tide, eyes fixed on the water that both beckons and terrifies. Beneath the surface, the Nile crocodile reigns supreme. These ancient predators, armored and patient, have waited all year for this moment. Motionless, they blend with the muddy water, their eyes just above the surface, watching the trembling herds. For the crocodiles, the migration is a feast, a rare chance to strike and sustain themselves for months to come. At the riverbank, fear is palpable. The animals sense the danger lurking below, and the herd's collective anxiety ripples through the crowd like a living current. Nostrils flare as wildebeest and zebra sniff the air, searching for the scent of death. The water's surface, calm and deceptive, hides the threat that every instinct warns them about. The herd bunches together, a mass of muscle and nerves, each animal waiting for another to make the first move. The tension is unbearable, a silent standoff between survival and terror. Instincts clash, one urging them to cross for food and water, the other screaming to stay back to avoid the jaws that wait below. At the very front, a single wildebeest or zebra stands frozen, the weight of the herd pressing from behind, the unknown ahead. Pressure builds as thousands surge forward, hooves churning the earth. The promise of green grass on the far bank almost within reach. Then, with a sudden burst of courage or desperation, one animal steps forward, breaking the spell. In an instant the herd erupts. A tidal wave of bodies crashes into the river, hooves pounding, water churning, the air filled with the thunder of panic and the cries of the terrified. Panic takes hold, spreading like wildfire. The river becomes a maelstrom of splashing, struggling animals, each fighting for a foothold, desperate to reach the other side. A single misstep, a stumble, a slip, can send shockwaves of terror through the herd. Animals topple, trampled by those behind, the river itself becoming a deadly trap. In the chaos, calves are separated from their mothers, their plaintive bleats lost in the roar. Some are swept away by the current, others vanish beneath the crush of hooves. From the depths, crocodiles strike. With explosive power, they lunge at the weakest, jaws snapping shut with bone-crushing force, dragging their prey into the murky abyss. The river runs red as predator and prey collide. It is a brutal, efficient spectacle, nature's harsh lesson in survival. For the youngest, like a zebra foal facing its first crossing, the ordeal is almost unimaginable. Every instinct screams to turn back, but the pull of the herd and the guidance of its mother urge it forward. Clinging to its mother's side, the foal plunges into the torrent, tiny legs kicking against the current, eyes wide with terror, heart pounding with the primal urge to survive. At last, the survivors scramble onto the far bank, soaked and trembling, their bodies marked by the ordeal. Each step onto solid ground is a victory over fear and fate. For the young zebra that escapes the snapping jaws and the chaos of the crossing, the lesson is seared into memory, a lesson written in adrenaline and terror. It has faced the ultimate fear and emerged stronger, more wary and forever changed. The bond with the herd is renewed, the shared ordeal forging connections that will last a lifetime. The memory of terror lingers, shaping every future step. Fear does not vanish, it sharpens. The survivors become more vigilant, their senses attuned to every ripple, every shadow in the water. As the herd moves on, the river behind them, the survivors carry with them the scars and wisdom of the crossing. This trial by water, orchestrated by the crocodiles and the river itself, is nature's most unforgiving teacher, ensuring that only the strongest, the swiftest, and the most resilient continue the eternal journey across the wild savannah. Section 6. A Shift in Shadows. The Old Predators Adapt. The return of lions to Akagera did not merely unsettle the herbivores, it sent deep tremors through the established order of predators. Hyenas and leopards, once the undisputed hunters and scavengers of these plains, suddenly found themselves forced to rethink every aspect of their existence. Before the lions' arrival, the spotted hyenas of Akagera enjoyed a life of relative ease. With no larger carnivores to challenge them, they lounged in the open, their cubs playing freely, their days marked by little more than the search for the next meal. They roamed the grasslands as the dominant carnivores, rarely encountering threats or rivals. Their confidence was visible in every stride, their social bonds untested by outside pressure. With an abundance of herbivores and few natural enemies, hyenas functioned more as scavengers than hunters, feasting on carcasses left behind by natural deaths or the occasional hunt. Their role was that of the ecosystem's cleanup crew, thriving on the leftovers of a landscape untroubled by apex predators. This lack of competition fostered a relaxed social structure. Aggression within the clan was minimal, and the need for coordinated hunting or territorial defense was rare. But the return of the lions shattered this tranquility. Suddenly the hyenas faced a new, formidable rival, one that would not tolerate competition for food or territory. Almost overnight, the hyenas were forced into retreat. Their dominance was challenged at every turn, and their place in the food chain was abruptly downgraded. The lions, now the apex predators, claimed the richest hunting grounds and the freshest kills. Their presence was felt everywhere, from the open plains to the hidden watering holes. Hyenas found themselves aggressively pushed out of prime areas. Any attempt to scavenge from a lion's kill was met with swift, often violent resistance. This new competition ignited a transformation. The hyenas' social dynamics shifted. Clans became more tightly knit, their communication more urgent, their postures more defensive and alert. With scavenging opportunities diminished, hyenas were compelled to rediscover their hunting prowess. They began to hunt more frequently, relying on teamwork and strategy to bring down prey. The days of easy meals were over. Now hunger drove them to search tirelessly, noses to the ground, senses sharpened by necessity. Hyenas became the cunning, coordinated hunters they are renowned for elsewhere in Africa, using numbers, speed, and intelligence to outmaneuver their prey and avoid the ever-present threat of lions. The lions, without intending to, retrained the hyenas. Forced to adapt, the hyenas honed their predatory instincts, becoming a more formidable and resourceful force within the park. For the park's leopards, the challenge was different but no less profound. As solitary hunters, leopards had always relied on stealth and secrecy, but the arrival of lions raised the stakes. Leopards could never hope to confront a pride of lions. Instead, they became even more elusive, their movements shrouded in shadow, their presence barely a whisper in the tall grass. Their survival depended on stealth and agility. Trees became their sanctuaries, places to hunt from, to rest, and to store their kills beyond the reach of ground-bound rivals. Leopards focused on smaller prey, vervet monkeys, impala and young antelope, using their powerful limbs to hoist carcasses high into the branches, safe from both hyenas and lions. The ever-present threat of lions made leopards even more vigilant. Every sound, every scent on the wind was a potential warning. Now a leopard's every step was measured and silent. Dusk and dawn became their preferred hours, when the shadows were deepest and the lions less active. Any kill left on the ground was a risk. The approach of a lion meant instant abandonment, the leopard melting away into the undergrowth to avoid confrontation. The new order created a landscape of tension and fear, not just for prey but for the predators themselves. Every meal was a gamble, every encounter a test of nerve and adaptability. Leopards responded with urgency, dragging their kills up trees with renewed determination, knowing that hesitation could mean losing everything. Hyena clans, even when successful, ate with haste and anxiety, always alert to the possibility of lions arriving to seize their hard-won prize. The lion's roar became a signal that echoed across the savannah, a warning for all, predator and prey alike, to clear the way. The entire predatory landscape was transformed. With the lion at its peak, Hyenas and leopards were forced to adapt, survive, and evolve in the ever-shifting shadows of their new rulers, each species finding new ways to endure and, in doing so, reshaping the wild heart of Akagera. Section 7. The Symphony of Survival, Signals and Sentinels. In a world newly defined by the ever-present shadow of predators, communication is not just a tool. It is the very heartbeat of survival. Every dawn, as the first golden rays spill across the grasslands, a silent pact is renewed among the animals of Akagera, to watch, to listen, and to warn. Across the vast savannah, a living network of vigilance emerges. Antelope, zebra, giraffe, and countless others gather in uneasy alliances, their senses sharpened by the return of the lion. Each species, with its own strengths and weaknesses, weaves itself into a tapestry of mutual protection where the fate of one may depend on the alertness of another. Every creature becomes both a sentinel and a signal. Eyes scan the horizon, ears twitch at the faintest rustle, nostrils test the wind for the scent of danger. The savannah is alive with a symphony of subtle cues, each animal attuned to the language of alarm. The topy antelope, ever the watchman, reclaims its ancient post atop the termite mounds. From these natural towers the topy surveys the sea of grass, its silhouette bold against the morning light. Its dark coat stands out, a beacon to its herd and a warning to all. With every sweep of its gaze, the topy becomes the eyes of the savannah, searching for the flicker of movement that betrays a stalking lion. When danger is detected, the topy's alarm is unmistakable, a sharp, snorting cry that pierces the morning air. This call is not just for its own kind, it is a broadcast to all within earshot, a ripple of warning that travels across the plains. Among the most vigilant are the impala, whose grace belies their constant state of readiness. They are the sentinels of the grass, always poised to react. The impala's alarm system is twofold, a marvel of evolutionary design. First, their ears, large, delicate, and endlessly mobile, swivel like satellite dishes, capturing the faintest hint of threat from any direction. With a single twitch, an impala can focus its hearing, isolating the sound of a distant footfall or the whisper of grass disturbed by a predator's approach. The second signal is visual, a message written in motion and color. When the impala senses danger, it explodes into a series of high, bounding leaps, its tail raised to reveal a brilliant white flash. This is the impala's silent alarm, a visual shout that slices through the chaos of the savannah. The sight of dozens of white tails flashing in unison is a signal that cannot be ignored. It sweeps through the herd, triggering a wave of flight, and warns every nearby animal that danger is at hand. Even fear itself becomes a language. The nervous glances, the sudden stillness, the ripple of unease, these are signals as clear as any call. Baboons, with their expressive faces, communicate volumes with a single look. A flash of wide, fearful eyes can send a message more urgent than any sound. Within the troop, a glance of terror is instantly understood. A predator is near, and every member must be ready to flee. This silent warning passes from one baboon to the next, a chain reaction of awareness that can mean the difference between life and death. When the lion pride draws near, panic erupts. Baboons abandon their foraging, racing for the safety of trees and cliffs, their alarm calls echoing across the plains. The chaos of their flight is a beacon to all. Other animals pause, listen, and prepare to run. The savannah becomes a stage for a drama of survival, every movement watched, every sound interpreted. This intricate web of signals forms a multi-layered defense, a living shield against the ever-present threat of predation. The giraffe, towering above the grass, becomes the lookout for all, its keen eyes scanning the horizon for the faintest sign of movement. The topy, nose lifted to the wind, may be the first to catch the scent of a lion, its cry the opening note in the symphony of alarm. The impala, ever vigilant, hears the approach and flashes its tail, a visual flare that spreads the warning. The baboon's shriek, raw and urgent, confirms the threat's proximity, sending a final wave of panic through the herds. These signals transcend species. A zebra will heed the toppie's call. A warthog will flee at the sight of impala in flight, and all will respond to the baboon's cry. The zebra, ears pricked and muscles tensed, is ready to run at the first sign of alarm. The warthog, startled by the impala's flight, bolts for cover, trusting the signals of its neighbours. The return of fear has sharpened every sense, retuning the savannah into a living orchestra of signals and sentinels. Here every sound, every movement, every flash of colour is part of a ceaseless conversation, a language of survival spoken by all, understood by all, and vital to the eternal dance between predator and prey. Section 8. A Kingdom in Conflict. The Trials of the Pride. The return of lions to Akagera was more than a conservation milestone. It was the rebirth of a dynasty. The birth of a second generation of cubs signalled hope. Their tiny bodies nestled against their mothers, eyes barely open to the golden light of the savannah. Each cub was a promise, a fragile thread in the tapestry of the pride's future. Yet beneath the warmth of the morning sun, the pride's existence was shadowed by the ever-present threat of conflict. For lions, every day is a test of strength, cunning, and unity. The dream of a lasting dynasty is always haunted by the spectre of rivalry and violence. The cubs, so recently welcomed into the world, found themselves in peril, not from the jaws of hyenas or the stealth of leopards, but from their own kind. The greatest danger came from within the species, a brutal truth of lion society. The scent of a thriving pride drifted on the wind, carrying news of opportunity to distant rivals. 4 powerful males, driven by instinct and ambition, crossed the endless grasslands, their eyes fixed on the promise of territory and mates. Their arrival was inevitable. A storm gathering on the horizon. For the lionesses, the approach of these strangers was a moment of terror. They pressed their cubs close, bodies tense, hearts pounding. The new males brought with them a chilling tradition, infanticide, a ruthless strategy to erase the legacy of their predecessors and claim the pride as their own. The logic behind this cruelty is as old as the species itself. The new kings have no bond with the cubs born of another's reign. Their cold amber eyes see only obstacles to their own bloodline. They pass the cubs with indifference, their focus fixed on the lionesses. The fate of the young is sealed not by malice, but by the relentless drive to ensure their own lineage. By ending the lives of the cubs, the new males remove future rivals and force the females back into estrus. It is a cycle of loss and renewal written in the blood and dust of the savannah. The lionesses, fierce and desperate, form a living shield around their young. Their growls echo across the plains, a mother's defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. In the chaos that follows, one lioness stands her ground, teeth bared, claws unsheathed. She fights with every ounce of her strength, but the tide is against her. Her cries of anguish pierce the morning air as she is forced to watch her litter fall. When the dust settles, she's left with a single cub, a tiny survivor clinging to her side. This lone cub becomes a living testament to her courage and the unforgiving nature of the wild. The upheaval does not spare the pride's patriarch. The old male, once the undisputed ruler, now stands alone, his mane flecked with grey, his eyes clouded with defeat. The 4 young challengers descend upon him with merciless force. The battle is swift and brutal, the old king's roars drowned by the fury of youth. He is battered, blooded, and finally driven from the only family he has ever known. Wounded and alone, he limps away from the pride, each step a painful reminder of all he has lost. His reign, once mighty, is reduced to memory. Stripped of his power, the old lion becomes a shadow on the plains, trailing vultures in search of scraps. The king who once feasted at the heart of the pride now scavenges at the edge of survival. His face, marked by scars and time, gazes out over the land he once ruled. The fall from grace is complete. a fate that awaits all who wear the crown in the wild. Yet even in the aftermath of loss, the savannah offers moments of unexpected connection. New alliances are forged in the crucible of hardship. One lioness, paralyzed by fear during the takeover, finds herself cast out, her place in the pride erased by the violence of change. She wanders the grasslands, glancing back at the family she can no longer join. Alone and exposed, she stumbles upon the old, exiled male. Their meeting is cautious. Two souls, battered by fate, drawn together by necessity. In their shared solitude, a partnership is born. The lioness, still strong and skilled, becomes the hunter. The old male, his authority faded but not forgotten, offers what protection he can. She stalks the antelope through the tall grass, her movements silent and sure. He stands watch, his presence a deterrent to lesser threats. Together they carve out a fragile existence on the margins of the kingdom they once called home. As the sun dips below the horizon, the unlikely pair moves forward. Two outcasts, a broken king and a dispossessed queen, venturing into the unknown. Their journey is a testament to resilience, a poignant reminder that even in the harshest trials, life in Akagera endures. Section 9. The Beautiful Fear, Restoring a Delicate Balance. As dawn breaks over the endless grasslands of Akagera, the golden light reveals a landscape transformed. The return of the lions has not simply added a new chapter to the park's story, it has rewritten the very rules of life here. Once the savannah was a quiet place, its silence masking an imbalance. Without the shadow of predators, herds grazed without caution, and the wild heart of Akagera beat faintly, missing a vital rhythm. Now the air is charged with energy. Herds of antelope and zebra move in restless patterns, their senses sharpened by the ever-present possibility of danger. The lions, once absent, now stride through the tall grass, their presence a silent command that echoes across the plains. Every animal, from the smallest impala to the mightiest buffalo, feels the change. The landscape itself seems to breathe deeper, as if awakened from a long slumber. The reintroduction of fear is not an act of cruelty, but a restoration of nature's ancient order. Predation is the force that shapes the wild, ensuring that only the strongest, most alert, and most adaptable survive. When a lion stalks a herd, it is not just hunting for food, it is testing the mettle of every creature in its path. The weak, the sick, and the unwary are culled, and the survivors grow ever more resilient. This beautiful, terrible force is the engine of natural selection. It is the invisible hand that sculpts the wild, refining every instinct, every muscle, every heartbeat. The effects ripple outward. Herds no longer linger in one place, preventing overgrazing and allowing the grasses to recover. The land grows lush and vibrant, supporting a greater diversity of life. Everywhere the signs of change are visible. Antelope graze with heads raised, ears twitching at the slightest sound. Zebra and buffalo move quickly, their bodies lean and strong, shaped by the constant need to stay alert. Even the youngest animals learn early the lessons of survival, their instincts sharpened by the ever-present threat. A young zebra that has outrun a lion, a wildebeest that has survived a river crossing. These are not just survivors, but the future of their species, carrying forward the hard-won wisdom of their encounters with mortality. The gene pool of every prey population is strengthened generation by generation by the renewed pressure of predation. The restoration of the food chain brings cascading benefits. Lions, by providing a steady supply of fresh kills, support a host of scavengers, hyenas, vultures, marabou storks, each playing their part in the cycle of life and death. Hyenas become more cunning hunters, while birds of prey thrive on the remnants left behind. The web of life, from the grasses that sway in the wind to the predators that rule the plains, is reconnected and revitalized. The park is alive with sound, the calls of birds, the thunder of hooves, the distant roar of a lion. It is a place of danger, but also of abundance, a testament to the power of balance. In this restored world, every creature has a role. The hunted and the hunter are bound together in a dance as old as time. The savannah is no longer a silent stage, but a living theatre where the drama of survival plays out each day. The story of Akagera is a lesson written in the language of the wild. It shows that true conservation is not about removing danger, but about embracing the full complexity of nature, even its brutality. The roar of the lion, once a sound of terror, is now the anthem of a healthy, functioning ecosystem. As the sun sets and the savannah glows with the last light of day, the distant roar of a lion echoes across the plains. It is the sound of balance restored, of fear playing its vital, life-giving role in the grand, intricate, and beautiful theatre of the African wild. As darkness falls and the savannah settles into its nocturnal rhythm, the true impact of the lion's return unfolds far beyond the drama of the hunt. The presence of these apex predators sends ripples through Akagera's web of life, touching every corner of the ecosystem, from the tallest acacia to the smallest insect. With herds now moving more frequently and grazing more sparingly, the grasses are given time to recover and regenerate. This rejuvenation means richer soil, which in turn nurtures a greater variety of plant species. Where once there were barren patches, now wildflowers bloom and shrubs thicken, providing shelter and food for insects and birds. The butterflies and bees, drawn by this burst of color, pollinate the land, ensuring the cycle of growth continues. In the absence of overgrazing, wetlands expand. Frogs croak from the edges and fish thrive in clearer waters. Water birds, herons, kingfishers and jacanas return in greater numbers, their calls weaving into the night air. The crocodiles, patient and ancient, patrol these waterways, benefiting from the increased abundance of prey. The lion's kills do not go to waste. After the pride has fed, hyenas move in, their powerful jaws cracking bones and cleaning up what remains. Vultures spiral down from the sky, their sharp eyes spotting the smallest scrap. Even beetles and ants join the feast, breaking down what's left and returning vital nutrients to the earth. This efficient recycling nourishes the soil, feeding the roots of the grass that will fuel the next generation of grazers. Small predators benefit too. Jackals and servals seize new opportunities in the shifting landscape, their populations adjusting in response to the new balance of power. The rodents and hares they hunt, now more cautious, change their feeding habits and hiding places, subtly reshaping the undergrowth. All around the landscape grows richer, more complex. The return of the lions has not only restored the ancient dance between predator and prey, it has triggered a cascade of changes, each one building upon the last, strengthening the resilience of the entire ecosystem. The savannah hums with a new vitality, every creature playing a part in this intricate, ever-evolving story. In Akagera, the lion's roar is more than a call of dominance. It is the pulse of an ecosystem reborn, a signal that the wild heart of Africa beats strong once again, its delicate balance restored, its future newly assured. As dawn breaks over the grasslands, Akagera's grazers awaken to a world forever changed. The return of the lions has rewritten the rules of survival, and every hoofed creature must adapt or risk falling prey. Zebras, once scattered and carefree, now gather in tighter, ever-shifting herds. Their black and white stripes ripple in unison as sentinels at the edge keep watch, ears swiveling, eyes scanning the horizon for any flicker of gold in the tall grass. The old, the young, and the inattentive no longer linger at the rear, for the pride's presence means the margins are perilous. When alarm calls echo, the herd surges as one, a living wave of caution and memory. Impala and gazelle, elegant and swift, have become students of the wind. They graze in open spaces, always upwind from dense thickets, alert to the faintest scent of feline. Their movements are sudden, their pauses frequent. Each mouthful of grass is a calculation, each flick of an ear a silent question. Is it safe? Buffalo, formidable yet targeted, have tightened their circles. Calves are pushed to the center, shielded by a wall of vigilant adults. At night they bed down in clearings, choosing safety over comfort, their heavy breaths forming a barrier of sound against the silent approaches of the pride. Even the smallest antelope, the duiker and reedbuck, have changed their habits. They browse at dusk and dawn, slipping between shadows, relying on the cover of shrubs that have grown thick thanks to less grazing pressure. Quick to freeze, quicker to flee, they have learned to trust silence and vanish at the slightest rustle. This new vigilance is not only learned, it is taught. Mothers nudge fawns into hiding spots, teaching them the patterns of grass and shadow. Elders lead by example, their survival stories etched into every cautious step. Over time, the prey grow leaner, stronger, swifter. The slower culled, the alert endure. Trails through the savannah shift, well-worn paths abandoned for new routes that wind along open ridges and away from cover. Watering holes, once social hubs, become tense arenas where eyes dart and bodies bunch, each animal weighing thirst against the risk of ambush. The result is a landscape of heightened awareness, a place where every movement is purposeful and every life is sharpened by necessity. The prey, shaped by the ever-present threat of lions, become architects of their own survival. Their strategies ripple outward, influencing where grass is eaten, which shrubs are browsed, and how the land itself is used. In this new chapter of Akagera's story, the prey are not simply victims or survivors. They are innovators, teachers, and guardians of their kind. Their dance with danger weaves complexity through the grasslands, ensuring that the pulse of life beats stronger, more resilient than before. As lions reclaim their throne atop Akagera's food chain, the savannah's other predators face an urgent test of resilience. The hyenas, once unchallenged scavengers and cunning hunters, now tread carefully on a landscape redrawn by a stronger rival. At night, their laughter is more subdued, their movements more calculated. Packs split into smaller bands, foraging at the fringes of the lion's domain, ready to dash away at the faintest roar. They have learned to shadow the pride at a distance, waiting for scraps, but never risking a direct confrontation unless desperation demands it. Leopards, the silent phantoms of the trees, adapt with characteristic stealth. They climb higher, choosing thicker canopies for their daylight retreats. Hunts are swift and secretive, prey dragged up into the branches before the scent of blood can beckon unwanted company. Cubs are kept hidden, mothers moving them often, never lingering long in one place. The leopard's world has narrowed, but their mastery of shadow and silence becomes their shield. Jackals, nimble and opportunistic, weave through the margins. They patrol the outskirts of lion kills, snatching overlooked morsels with quick darting raids. In the absence of lions they hunt in pairs, but when the pride is near they scatter, relying on speed and cunning. Their calls are shorter, their movements more erratic, as each night brings a new calculation of risk and reward. Even the crocodiles, rulers of the waterways, sense the shift. With fewer careless grazers and more vigilant herds, opportunities for ambush diminish. They spend longer hours submerged, attuned to the rhythms of the land, waiting for the desperate or the unwary to break cover. In this new hierarchy, every predator must adjust. Territories shrink and shift, hunting times change, and ancient rivalries flare at the boundaries of overlapping domains. The lion's return is a force that tests the ingenuity of all who share the savannah. Yet, in adapting, these predators do not vanish, they evolve. Hyenas develop finer strategies for theft and evasion. Leopards become more elusive, their legends growing in the shadowed groves. Jackals learn patience, and crocodiles hone their ambushes to perfection. Competition sharpens them, and the savannah becomes a chessboard of risks and rewards. In Akagera, survival is no longer just about strength. It is about wit, adaptability, and the unending dance between hunter and hunted. The presence of lions does not silence the other voices of the wild. Instead, it composes a richer, more complex symphony where every predator finds its place in the ever-shifting chorus of life. As the lions reclaim their ancestral territory, the changes ripple far beyond the movements of predators and prey. The very face of Akagera transforms, responding in quiet but profound ways to the return of its apex rulers. Grasslands once overgrazed by unchecked herds begin to recover. Shoots of fresh green emerge where the pressure of constant grazing has eased, and wildflowers once trampled under hooves now bloom in unexpected bursts of colour. The acacia woodlands, once threatened by the relentless feeding of giraffes and elephants, find new balance. With lions on the prowl, herds are wary, always on the move, giving young trees space to grow. The shifting patterns of movement create a mosaic of grazed and ungrazed patches, each supporting unique communities of insects, birds, and small mammals. In the shadows of these changes, dung beetles, butterflies, and bees find new niches, their populations swelling as habitats diversify. Waterholes, once crowded and muddied by unchallenged congregations, now see a cautious choreography. Prey animals approach in smaller, more alert groups, pausing to scan the horizon before lowering their heads to drink. The reduced trampling allows reeds and lilies to flourish at the water's edge, providing shelter for frogs, fish, and nesting birds. Kingfishers and herons return in greater numbers, drawn by the abundance of life. Even the soil itself feels the difference. With grazers kept on the move, overgrazed bare patches diminish, and roots bind the earth more tightly. Erosion slows and rainwater soaks deeper, nourishing underground reservoirs. The air hums with renewed vitality. Crickets at dusk, frogs after the rains, the distant drumming of woodpeckers. The savannah's transformation is not loud or sudden. It is an unfolding story, written in the subtle interplay of life and death, predator and prey, plant and animal. Akagera becomes not just a stage for dramatic hunts, but a living tapestry, its colours deepening, its rhythms growing more intricate with each passing season. In the lion's wake, the land itself remembers how to thrive. In the heart of Akagera, water is more than a resource, it is the pulse that shapes every life. Rivers, lakes, and hidden springs thread through the savannah, drawing animals from miles around in silent, ceaseless pilgrimage. These liquid lifelines are the anchors of the ecosystem, dictating the rhythms of movement for predator and prey alike. As the dry season deepens, waterholes shrink and rivers slow to a trickle. The land's inhabitants, from towering elephants to nimble antelope, are compelled to follow invisible trails etched into memory, paths that always lead to water. At dawn, the first arrivals emerge from the brush nervous impalas, zebras, and warthogs, their ears flicking and nostrils flaring as they approach. They scan the reeds and shadows, knowing that every sip comes with risk. Hidden in the tall grass, lions and other predators wait. For them, waterholes are not just sources of refreshment, but crossroads of opportunity. Here, patience is rewarded, and the dance of survival plays out in tense, wary silence. Crocodiles lurk beneath the surface, eyes just above the waterline. Birds, herons, storks, and kingfishers perch on overhanging branches, their sharp eyes alert for the slightest ripple. As the sun climbs, the water's edge becomes a stage for shifting alliances and fleeting truces. Baboons and bushbucks drink side by side, united by thirst. A lone buffalo, caked in mud, stands guard for its herd, watching for danger. The air vibrates with the calls of weaver birds and the soft drone of dragonflies skimming the surface. But water is not only a magnet for animal life. It is a sculptor of the land itself. The constant trampling of hooves creates muddy channels and open clearings, while the absence of overgrazing allows reeds and lilies to stretch further into the shallows. Fish find shelter among the roots, and frogs chorus from the margins, their voices rising with the promise of rain. During the wet season, the landscape transforms. Floodplains swell and temporary pools dot the grasslands, scattering herds across wider ranges. The abundance of water brings a sense of ease. Predators and prey disperse, and the tension at the major water sources softens. In these brief months, life flourishes in every corner, from glistening beetles to sleek otters darting through flooded grasses. Yet as the cycles turn and the dry winds return, all roads once again lead to water. In the presence of these vital pools, the savannah's grand drama is renewed. Every drop sustains a chain of life. Every ripple echoes with the footsteps of generations past. In Akagera, water is destiny, its presence, absence, and movement guiding the endless migrations and shaping the fate of all who call this land home. As the final embers of sunlight sink behind Akagera's distant hills, a hush descends. Then, in the velvet darkness, the savannah awakens anew. Night is the kingdom of senses sharpened and secrets kept, a time when the rules of the day are rewritten and every shadow holds a story. Under a sky scattered with stars, the air thickens with sound. It begins with the low, rumbling roars of the lions, now rulers returned, echoing across the open plains. Their voices carry far, a deep-throated warning and a call to kin, vibrating through the grass and over the still surface of the water. Each roar is both a claim and a challenge, weaving through the night like a living boundary. From the cover of acacia and fig, the chorus builds. Hyenas chortle and whoop, their laughter rising in manic crescendos. Scavengers and rival hunters, ever alert for opportunity or misstep. Jackals cry out in sharp, fleeting yelps, their calls answered by distant kin. The soft-footed leopards slip silently through the undergrowth, their presence marked only by an occasional rasping cough. Near the shrinking waterholes, herds gather in uneasy silence. Zebras snort softly, their stripes melting into the shadows, while impalas stamp and flick their ears, attuned to the slightest snap of twigs. Elephants, ghosts in the moonlight, pass through the reeds with barely a sound, save for the gentle slosh of water and the low rumble of their bellies. A secret language felt more than heard. Above, nightjars and owls swoop low, their wings whispering against the cool air. Insects thrum and click, a constant undercurrent to the night's symphony. Frogs chorus from the muddy banks, their voices layered and insistent, rising and falling like waves. The lions move with purpose beneath the cover of darkness, their golden eyes catching the faintest gleam. They are bolder now, their confidence restored by years of adaptation. With every step they test the wind, seeking the vulnerable, the unwary. The tension is palpable. Prey animals freeze, hearts pounding, every sense straining for a sign. Sometimes the night erupts in chaos. A sudden chase, the crashing of hooves, the anguished bray of a buffalo, or the alarm snort of a kudu. Then, as swiftly as it began, the silence returns, thicker, heavier, broken only by the distant roar of triumph, or the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Yet not all is fear. In the stillness between alarms, families huddle close. Mothers nudge their young, herds draw tighter, and the warmth of bodies offers comfort against the unknown. Life pulses quietly, resilient and enduring. This is Akagera after dark, a realm of shifting alliances and ancient instincts, where every sound tells a tale and every shadow is alive with possibility. Here the return of the lions has reshaped the night. Their presence reverberates in every call, every hush, every heartbeat. And as the moon rides high and the stars wheel overhead, the savannah's nocturnal symphony plays on, timeless and unbroken. Beneath the vast sky of Akagera, every life is bound to another by invisible threads, an intricate tapestry woven from need, adaptation, and ancient accord. Here survival is not a solitary pursuit, but a delicate dance of interdependence, unfolding day and night across the grasslands, wetlands, and woodlands alike. A herd of zebras grazes, their teeth clipping tall stems and stirring up clouds of insects. Nearby, flocks of oxpeckers swoop down, perching boldly on striped backs. With every peck, the birds lift ticks and biting flies from the zebra's skin, feeding themselves and easing the zebra's burden in return. In their undergrowth, dung beetles roll fresh droppings into perfect spheres, their tireless labor aerating the soil and returning vital nutrients to the earth. The acacia trees, spiny and resilient, offer more than shade. Giraffes browse their leaves, pruning the canopy and encouraging new growth. As the giraffes move on, their hooves press seeds into the mud, spreading the next generation of trees across the savannah. Insects pollinate bright flowers, weaver birds stitch nests among the branches, their woven homes swaying in the breeze and sheltering chicks from predators below. At the water's edge, crocodiles bask, patient and ancient. Fish dart between their massive forms, feeding on insects and algae. When the crocodiles slip silently into the water, their movement stirs up silt and nutrients, feeding the tiny plants and creatures that form the base of the food web. The lions, apex predators, shape the lives of many. Their presence keeps herbivores wary and moving, preventing overgrazing and allowing the land to recover. When a hunt is successful, scavengers gather, hyenas, jackals and vultures, each cleaning what remains and returning nutrients to the soil. Even in death, every creature nourishes another. Beneath the surface, unseen but vital, termites tunnel and build, breaking down wood and plant matter. Their mounds rise like miniature cities, sheltering countless insects and providing lookout posts for mongooses and monitor lizards. Every call, every movement, every heartbeat in Akagera is part of this living web. No species exists in isolation. The elephant's pathways become roads for smaller animals. The shade of the fig trees hosts countless insects and birds. Even the predators depend on the health of the herds, and the herds rely on the land's renewal. In this world, balance is born not from dominance, but from connection. Each species shapes the fate of the next, and together they write the ongoing story of Akagera, a story of resilience, of adaptation, and of life bound together, stronger as one than apart. As the sun rises over the savannah, Akagera's story continues, its threads stretching not only through the present but also into the uncertain future. The land, vibrant and alive, faces challenges that shift with every season, every rainfall and every new dawn. In the distance, dark clouds gather, signs of a changing climate. Rains may come too late or fall too hard, turning rivers into torrents or leaving watering holes cracked and dry. Grazers must journey farther to find fresh shoots, their herds thinning as the strongest press on and the weak fall behind. Elephants, wise matriarchs leading their families, must remember forgotten paths to hidden water, while crocodiles and fish wait in dwindling pools for relief that may never arrive. Invasive plants creep through the undergrowth, their roots outcompeting native grasses. The gentle sway of the savannah shifts, and with it the delicate balance of food and shelter for countless creatures. Even the acacia, so well adapted, strains against these newcomers. Predators, too, feel the pressure. As prey patterns change, lions and hyenas adapt their strategies, sometimes clashing more fiercely, sometimes ranging farther than before. The ghosts of disease and famine linger at the edges of every hunt, yet hope endures, woven through each challenge. The resilience of Akagera's wildlife is ancient, tested by droughts and floods, by fire and famine. Herds learn new migratory routes, led by elders whose memories stretch beyond the span of a single lifetime. Birds, ever watchful, discover new nesting grounds as the wetlands shrink and swell. Even the tiniest termites adjust, shifting their tunnels deeper, building ever stronger mounds. In this living landscape, every setback births opportunity. As the grasslands recover after hardship, new plants take root, feeding the next generation. Scavengers find nourishment even in scarcity, their sharp eyes and keen noses ensuring nothing is wasted. The cycles of life, though tested, persist. Above all, the hope for Akagera lies in its capacity for renewal. Though unseen, the future is written by the choices of every creature, by the zebra's wary step, the lion's measured stalk, the elephant's determined march toward water. Together they shape a world where life endures, where challenges become stories of survival, and where hope rises with every new dawn. Akagera's horizon is not a line, but an open invitation, an ever-unfolding promise that life in all its tangled forms will find a way.